Hi, thanks for joining us on the Nourishing the Community Podcast, where we're going to be talking about all things happening in the community with nonprofits and community needs and how you, the listener, can get involved and make some change. I'm your host, LaDonna Parham. This is my co-host,
Norman Hanks. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Nourishing the Community Podcast. I'm your host, Norman, and today in the hot seat, we have our friend Jordan Dickerson with Murfreesboro Cold Patrol. How are you, Jordan?
Hi, good morning. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's funny to see you sitting all clenched up.
Okay.
Relax, it's okay. We're just going to chat. So, Murfreesboro Cold Patrol. Tell us a little bit about it, when it started, a little history on it, and then tell us how you became the executive director over there.
Yeah, so we started unofficially in 2014 because we saw a need. We had volunteers. It was completely volunteer-led for several years, and we saw that every single year there was someone who couldn't get to the shelter, to the coldest night shelter. And so we would patrol around and pick folks up and take them there. And whether that's because they physically couldn't get there because they were new and didn't know, whatever. And so that's kind of where our name came from, Murfreesboro Cold Patrol. And then in 2017, we became an official 501c3. I actually volunteered first with Cold Patrol, and then I got hired on as a case manager, and then in October of 2022, I took over as executive director.
Awesome. So Murfreesboro Cold Patrol works with homeless clients. Yes. Is it only homeless clients?
So it's mainly homeless clients. Clients who are homeless, and so it's anyone who is outside in an encampment, in their cars, in motels, whatever. We do work with some folks who are about to become homeless, trying to kind of help them prevent that. And then once we've helped someone get into permanent housing, we do stay with them for at least 12 months, usually longer, but at least 12 months. So they're housed as well. So it's kind of a little bit of everything, but people experiencing homelessness in Murfreesboro is kind of our niche.
Awesome. So what kind of services do y'all provide to your people experiencing homelessness? I've got to get the people first language back in my mouth. I don't know why I'm saying.
Well, and it's a mouthful, but it's okay.
Anyways, people first language.
Yeah.
Anyways.
For sure. So we do kind of full case management. It is true wraparound services. So when we meet folks, we start case management, but it's really kind of more relationship based. And so we're meeting folks in camps and checking in on them, providing like basic life-saving supplies. So sleeping bags, water, hot hands, blankets, bug spray and stuff in the summer, all that good stuff. And then as we're building those relationships with folks, when they're ready on their time, we're like, let's go. So whether that's helping them get a job, helping them get into rehab, helping them on their housing journey, whatever their goal looks like, is really what we help them kind of plug in and get into. And then if it is housing, we start that journey as well. And then once someone has gotten into housing, we kind of help them start to finish, because kind of our bread and butter is folks who are chronically homeless. So a lot of our folks have been out here 10, 15, 20 years.
Right.
So if you've been out here 20 years, you may have never paid a bill online. So it's like teaching folks how to do that, and like making sure they have furniture, making sure like all of those small little things that you don't necessarily think about to make sure you're not just in housing, but that you're thriving and able to stay in housing.
Right. Horribly important to be able to sustain it once you get there.
Oh, yeah. And that's a piece that, like, most folks don't think about. Like,
Right.
Great, you're in housing, done, wonderful. And you're like, no.
Yeah. Am I talking too loud? Sorry, I am breathing a lot. I don't know why.
How dare you?
I don't know what's going on
God,
today.
how
Trying
rude.
to breathe.
That's so funny.
Thanks, Trent.
Yeah.
Shoot. It's okay. I get distracted easily.
No, it's
Then
okay.
my brain goes everywhere else. So we were talking about housing. Yes, stability. Yes, sustaining housing once we get into it.
Yeah.
So you, not you, but
Yeah.
Cold Patrol.
Yeah.
once you get a client into housing, like you were saying, you have to work with them to continue teaching them the importance of maintaining that housing.
Yeah.
That's so fun. Obviously, you don't have to do that, right? You have case managers that help with that.
So we are kind of a smaller team.
Right.
Right now, we're a staff of 2.5.
Oh, wow.
So I am still doing some case management, and we have an amazing volunteer team too. So our volunteers are way more hands-on than kind of traditionally. But I am still doing some of that. Yeah.
Okay. So you say y'all patrol. Obviously, that's where the Cold Patrol comes from. Do you only patrol in cold weather, or do you patrol year-round?
Oh yeah, no, we patrol during the cold, but our name is very misleading. We are working year-round, so when it's 102 degrees in the middle of the woods, my shirt still says Cold Patrol, but we are still year-round. Yeah.
That's awesome. Your clients that are living in the camps, because we know there are encampments around Murfreesboro, right?
Absolutely.
The clients that are living in those camps, I know there's a big problem with them getting moved regularly.
Yeah.
Right? How do y'all help them with that situation?
Yeah. So it is very difficult because Tennessee, unfortunately, was the first state in the country to basically criminalize homelessness because without permission, it's illegal to camp on private property. And now we're the first state to criminalize camping on public property. So it makes it really difficult. And so we try and help with as much as we can on the front end. We do have a really good partnership with MPD's host unit. They have kind of been instrumental because it used to be very not structured, which was not helpful for our clients. And they try and give our folks as much time and grace as they can. But it's kind of just like we provide trash bags because they've got to move all of their stuff.
Right.
And so we provide trash bags and stuff for them to take their stuff, for them to bag up whatever trash they can. And then if something's damaged or broken, we'll try and swap that with them. So like if their tent is damaged, we'll swap them a tent. Because we try to also be good stewards of the messier your camp is, the quicker you're going to get evicted.
Right.
And so we try to also make sure clients are informed of that as well to make sure they can stay as long as they can.
So with the law that you just spoke of, can you tell us when it was enacted?
Yeah.
And just a little detail about what it is?
Yeah. So it built off of another bill that had been around for several years, but in July of last year, Senate Bill 1610 got put into place. And so it says that you can't camp on public property. And so because of that, myself and our former executive director, we actually went and first time in my life participating in a civil protest, but kind of went to that. It was in Nashville. And thankfully, through the intense partnership that we've got with MPD, nobody in Murfreesboro has been charged. Oh, because it's a Class E felony.
Correct.
It's not like, here's this little misdemeanor. Like, it's a felony. And felonies, obviously, like everybody knows, keeps people from housing. So it's not...
And employment.
And lots of things in life. And so it's not... It doesn't make any sense. It's the nicest way to put that.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Our state house and representatives don't make a lot of sense most of the time. It's okay.
Yeah. And so, thankfully, Murfreesboro has not charged anybody with a felony for that. But several places around the state have. It went into effect July 1st of last year, and July 2nd, there were already cities who had issued felonies, which is just... wild.
Insane. Yeah.
Just heartbreaking.
So you work with these clients every day. How many people currently in Rutherford County do we have living on the streets?
Yeah, so...
That we know of.
That's the kind of key. We do something every year called the point-in-time count. It's something federally that...
mandated, right?
Yes, that we're required to do. And it's kind of a census type, if you will. And it's one 24-hour span. But we know, obviously, it's a flawed system of you can't count everybody.
And the rules involved with the counting,
Yes.
right? You have to count at certain times in certain ways in certain places, correct?
Yeah, and you and they're also very specific about who is considered homeless. So like for instance,
Yes.
for instance, someone staying in a hotel, if they paid for it that night, even though they have lived in an encampment literally every other day of the year, they don't count. And so it's kind of a very skewed system, but unofficially. Well, this past year's count was like 370. But that's, again, not including people in motels, not including people doubled up. So if you're sleeping on someone's couch, that's not including like several things, and the folks that we could find. So we've got way over 400 folks. But obviously we can't, like, it's harder, and our community is trying to, as best as possible, kind of clean up our data universally and kind of how we keep track of things to make sure we're representing our folks as best as we can, but it will always be under. Yeah,
always, because of the rules involved with counting numbers.
For sure.
And that's across the entire county, right? It's not
Yes,
just
that is all of
Murfreesboro.
Rutherford County. But I mean, we've got, like, if you look at Atlas numbers, which is kids in the school system who are homeless,
Right.
I mean, their numbers are way higher, and it's not just kids living by themselves. So, you know, all of their adults should be counted in those numbers too, depending on, but because of the rules of homelessness,
Right.
you know, most of those don't count, unfortunately.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're telling us things about homelessness that we might not understand.
Yeah.
So try to explain to us the difference in homeless criteria, right?
Yeah.
Like, how are we differentiating our homeless clients?
Yeah.
Our clients that are homeless.
For sure. So there are, you're good. There are a couple different federal definitions and like the McKinney-Vento definition. And so you'll like hear lots of folks throw out specific definitions of homelessness, and you can look those up. But really, it's kind of one of the biggest differences is you hear them say true homeless, which is not my favorite. But so the folks in their cars, in a place not habitable, versus someone staying in a motel paid for by themselves does not count. So kind of that's the difference. But as far as like Cold Patrol goes, homelessness is homelessness.
Right.
Like that is,
I mean, that's the
silly.
same across the board for us at
yeah,
Nourish. You know,
for sure.
if you're living on someone's couch, you obviously don't
Yeah.
have a home. You're
Yeah,
homeless,
literally.
right? Yeah.
You'd think it would be that simple,
It
but
should be that simple,
it's
right?
not,
It's
yeah.
just not.
No.
So 375 people across the county, and our city says there are no homeless people here. So how do we deal with that?
Yeah. So when you talk about homelessness, it's definitely obviously like a polarizing issue.
Yes.
And I have been fortunate enough to see kind of how other cities handle it and seen, you know, the gambit of it doesn't exist versus yes, it's here. I know we have been trying to work really closely with different folks in the community to try and bring as much awareness to our folks because they're here.
Yeah.
They exist. I know kind of, I will say on my soapbox, we in this city are really bad at saying the community and the homeless, and like our clients are the community. Our clients are your neighbors. Our clients are here. They are citizens. They are working in this community. They are paying taxes. They are doing all of these things. So that's kind of one of the biggest pet peeves of mine when it comes to kind of folks talking about homelessness in Murfreesboro is like our folks are just as much citizens as everybody else.
As the house.
Yeah,
population.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry.
No, yeah.
So, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
I'm just asking
Yeah.
questions because you are more involved with that population than I
For
am.
sure.
I know recently the city has taken some measures to try to help keep some of our homeless population out of the city square, off City Plaza. Can you explain some of those things to us and why they're so detrimental?
Are you referring to like the decency ordinance, or what are you?
I was referring to our sweet little benches that we can no longer lay across because there's bars in the middle, or the fact that there's now fencing around Civic Plaza to keep people out of it.
Yeah. That was an unfortunate culture shock, I think, for me. Because I know, as small as that seems, we had folks devastated. I mean, we had folks that we would talk to and were just in tears because it's, to them, it was obvious that it was for them. And so kind of making sure they knew that they were still loved and supported was like kind of the thing that we were doing right around day of. But just because we also understand when I have conversations with some of the different folks on boards of like the library or like of City Hall and stuff, we also do understand like safety and things like that. But I think stuff like this kind of opens up the conversation of we, because of mainly the media, think like homelessness, they're scary, they're bad, they're dangerous, all of those things. And like that's furthest from the truth. I am way safer in the middle of a homeless camp than I am in the Rutherford Walmart parking lot, like way safer. And so I think some of that came from just kind of lack of knowledge of our folks or lack of awareness. And so we try as best we can that's part of our mission statement is advocacy. We tried as best as we can to really, especially on our social media, show like these are people and they're really awesome people and nice people. And like, we have a great partnership with the library and the officers at the plaza. And so like, if they ever need our help, we do come out, we do assist, or if they've got someone brand new who's walked in, they'll call us and we'll come out and talk to them and kind of get them plugged into the best resources. And so, I would like to say that the fencing and the lack of benches and stuff are kind of speaking for the minority opinion of the community.
So let's talk about that because I understand all of the safety concerns and precautions.
Yeah, for sure.
I also recognize that some of our downtown businesses were very vocal about wanting those things put in place, right? Because they didn't want these people hanging out in their little what are they called? Their little overhangs, which is understandable.
Yeah.
How do we advocate better for our friends that are going through this homelessness situation to those businesses, right? Because I eat downtown every day, just about.
Yeah,
right.
For sure. We try as a staff to eat downtown a lot.
Right.
And so like several of them have my personal business card. And it's really, especially if they ever do call, it's kind of, I almost encourage that because I would much rather, if you're having an issue or if you're a little uncomfortable or something, you call and we can show up and you'll see how casual the conversation is. We most likely know the person. You know, we might sit down and buy a burger with them. And so then we're both participating in giving back to your business. And so it's just kind of, we try and answer as many questions. We try and be as transparent about our folks as possible, because that's kind of how we break down the barriers of misconception. But I think there's a lot more supporters who aren't as vocal as kind of the few that aren't.
Right.
Yeah. Like everything, you know.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier about getting to know your clients and working with them over a span of time and the importance of building trust. Can you talk on that a little bit? Tell us how you build that trust, like other than just showing up every day, right? Which is a huge key in creating those moments. And
Oh yeah, consistency is one of the biggest things, but we also serve everyone. So no matter your charge, no matter your current or past substance use, no matter whatever kind of situation you're in, we serve you. And so we have kind of been really blessed. We have a good relationship with our folks in the community, and to the point where like a lot of our referrals are client to new client of like, hey, have you gone in and checked with Cold Patrol? Like they can help with stuff. And so that also really helps as far as trust goes. The fact that our folks trust us, but it is like showing up consistently and making sure that they know, okay, I'm not just showing up and saying, hey, are you ready for housing? And you saying no and me saying, ugh, okay, well, good luck. Right. Yeah. You know, like that's not it. We have found that doesn't work for us. And especially our folks who are chronically homeless, that's not helpful. And so showing up, making sure they're surviving, we have those conversations and just like little sparks of conversation. And we always say like, hey, whatever it is, when you're ready, we're ready. And I think one of the biggest other things that builds trust for our folks is we don't decide what your next step is. Like it's not, oh, it's housing or oh, it's rehab or oh, it's whatever. You get to decide it's a job, it's rehab, it's housing, it's whatever. And then we just help with that. So I think that's kind of the other biggest layer that helps with building that relationship.
It's awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
So as someone in the community working with these clients that are homeless, God, people first is hard for me. I don't know why.
It takes an adjustment. And
I've done it for years. Anyways, so with our friends out there in the community who are unhoused, I'm trying to think of how I want to word this question. Yeah. There are not a lot of shelters in place, right? There's not a lot of help for our clients in place currently. Is that correct?
Ish. So there is a lot of help. There's a million amazing resources in the community, but as far as shelter goes, we are very lacking. So
do you know how many beds we have open on any given night?
Oh,
in Rutherford County?
Open like none. We've got less than 35 shelter beds total in this city. And again, I would say way over 400 folks, but so we've got less than 35 shelter beds, not including the domestic violence shelter because obviously they're separate. Right. But there's wait lists. So like the beds are never open. I mean, they are open, but thankfully our community, and especially with some new processes that we're putting into place, those beds are not staying open long. We immediately, of course, have people to fill those. So when folks call, I mean, while it's unfortunate, we can say, you know, unfortunately, the Nashville Rescue Mission is the only place that we know will for sure take you.
And how do we get people from Murfreesboro to the Nashville Rescue Mission?
Yeah.
Because that's a long walk. I don't know if you've made that walk.
I have not made that walk. Yeah, no.
I don't want to, but it's a long walk down there.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we provide for folks trying to get there, like, there's a bus that goes from Murfreesboro to Nashville, and so we'll provide like a bus pass or something. But it is a challenge of folks don't often think like, oh, go to the Nashville Rescue Mission of like, well, I can't get there. I can't walk there. You know, it's 2:00. There's no way. And we have some folks who ride bikes and some folks like here who are super they're super independent and they walk and, you know, they bike everywhere. But to get from Murfreesboro to Nashville is a feat. And so we do provide bus passes for that. But unfortunately, it's just kind of that's kind of as far as we can go as far as shelter wise. We do get them plugged in to like Stepping Stones does day shelter services. So like
for women.
For women and children. And so like, we try and get them plugged in as best as possible, but...
Are there any other day shelters like that for the wider population?
So I know Journey Home provides services during the day. I think they're moving away from, I don't want to speak for them, but I think they're moving away from the phrase day shelter. But they do provide like breakfast and lunch and showers and laundry services. But as far as like actual day shelter goes, Stepping Stones is the only one.
Cold Patrol. So yeah. Do y'all have an office you work out of currently?
We do. Yeah, we're on Park. We're at 800 Park Avenue. We're right across the street from the Experience or community the Experience Community Church, or Mayday, is kind of what we say. The journey home is on Castle. We are a street over on Park, and then Stepping Stones is a street over from us. So we're kind of in like a perfect little sweet spot. I will say, though, because we're outreach, we're not always in the office. So we do ask folks, like, we've got our number to like call us and see before you're walking in, because we might not be there.
Right. Where do you see Murfreesboro Cold Patrol in the next 5 years?
Yeah.
That one is putting you on the spot.
Yeah.
Sorry,
No,
Jordan.
that's okay. It's hopefully continuing to build and grow. We would like several more staff members. That's in the works at the moment. Trying to build our internal team. We would love for our volunteer base to continue to grow. And continue, we are firm believers in not reinventing the wheel, but also not duplicating resources. So really continuing to plug into the places that are missing. And so continuing to build the outreach team, continuing to provide services for our clients in housing once they're in there. We would love to grow space-wise. We joke that maybe a 10-year goal is if there's ever a motel out there, we would love to buy it. Because we've got also a lot of folks who are kind of in between. They're too acute for traditional housing, like to live on their own, but they're not acute enough for like a group home or like a long-term nursing home. And so we've got a lot of clients, and that's not just us, that's statewide.
Explain that to us better so that,
Yeah.
because I don't understand exactly what you mean by an acute or not acute enough. And if I don't, I'm sure some of our listeners don't.
For sure.
So yeah, just explain it a little more
Yeah,
so we understand
good
what you're
call out.
saying.
So we've got folks who, because of physical health, because of mental health, they need a little more care, or they might need like a payee or a conservatorship, stuff like that. And so they might not necessarily be successful living on their own. Some of our folks with like schizophrenia, or some of our folks with significant mental illness sometimes struggle living on their own. And so, but they're very independent, like they can do stuff on their own. They just kind of struggle a little bit to maintain what we view as kind of a normal living style or arrangement. And so, but they're not at the level to where a nursing home will take them. And so it's kind of trying to find that middle ground, because that's a lot of what you traditionally see on the square. It's the folks who are the more difficult cases. They're, they've been out here 15 years, but it's because of their mental or physical health. But they don't have insurance, or their insurance is not good enough to where they don't qualify for some of those higher levels of care. But they need a little additional support, and kind of that's what's lacking right now in our state. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
okay.
It makes complete sense. And inside of that population, do you see a lot of veterans?
Yeah, we do see a lot of veterans. We see way more veterans than we want to see nobody.
Right?
Yeah,
we want to see no one on the street, for sure.
But you definitely don't want to ever see a veteran. We work really closely with the VA. We work really closely with Operation Stand Down and several veteran programs, because fortunately there are more resources for veterans. So the minute we find out you're a veteran, we're like, great, are you willing to do veteran resources? Because we can house you way quicker. Yeah. Thankfully that those things are put in place. But we do have a lot of veterans out here. And not all of them are willing or are comfortable with using veteran resources. Some of them in their head didn't serve long enough, so they don't consider themselves a vet. So we've even tried to switch the language. So have you served in the military versus are you a veteran? Because especially some of our younger folks are like, well, I wasn't in Vietnam, so like I'm not a veteran. Yeah, like I'm not good enough or whatever. And so seeing if they're willing to participate in veteran services. And there are a couple agencies who you don't have to have an honorable discharge. So thankfully, there are a few of those out there as well. So any type of military service, generally we can find some resources additionally to get you plugged in. But we do have several who are out here, and we house folks, veteran or non, but we have housed several veterans who were not able to or were not willing to use those veteran resources. Mm-hmm.
So, just going to jump back on the programming side of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us a little bit more about the actual programs that y'all have in place to help your clients.
Yeah. So we kind of look at it as kind of a 3-part system. And so outreach is kind of where we started our bread and butter of providing basic survival supplies. We do all of the helping you get your birth certificate and your ID and your social, because you need all of those things to get anywhere, a job, rehab, housing, anywhere. And so we help provide those services. We are very fortunate because we're outreach. We're able to provide transportation. So we're able to pick you up and take you to a doctor's appointment. We're able to pick you up and take you to a housing appointment, something like that. Because it's hard. It's confusing. And we've got clients who can't read even. Yeah. And so like, if you just plop somebody down in a hospital, like it's hard for me to understand sometimes what that paperwork is. So like, we are able to provide that service. That's one of our biggest things that kind of, as outreach helps us stand apart, is we are able to provide that transportation piece. And all of the little things in between. So like we've got folks who, we've got an awesome barber and cosmetologist who come out and provide haircuts. We do, we try to also make it fun. So we do things like music night, and we do things like trash day, because back to our folks, it's illegal to dump in somebody else's dumpster. Right. So that was a need. We go out quarterly and pick up folks' trash. They bag it, and we put it in a dumpster, so generously given to us by the city of Murfreesboro's waste department for free. Yeah. Bishop over there is the manager, and he is incredible and supports us. And so they drop off a container and pick it up.
That's great.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. They're wonderful over there. So shout out to them. But so we try and provide all of the kind of basic needs as far as street outreach goes. Our case manager is a CPRS, a certified peer recovery specialist. She's got lived experience. She's incredible. Her name is Eliza. And so she and I and volunteers of ours help folks get into rehab. And so we also provide like rehab suitcases. So all of the needs that they will need to be successful in rehab, and transportation for them to get there as well. We have 2 transitional houses for men. So it's between 8 and 10 men at a time, depending on who we've got in the program.
Okay, I'm going to stop you because I want to ask you a
Yeah,
question about
absolutely.
that. So your transitional housing, I'm finding that everyone defines it differently.
Yes.
Can you tell us what your transitional housing is?
Yeah. So it is a 6-month program. Some need a little more, some need a little less, but we've kind of found the sweet spot is 6 months. And so it's to put a roof over their head as they work on housing. Don't know if you've looked or noticed, but affordable permanent housing is really hard to find here in Murfreesboro.
Yes, it is.
And so it gives them a roof over their head for us to buy some time. We work on life skills while they're there, budgets and goal setting and all of those things. And then we help them apply to places. And then once they've got approved, then we'll start the next step. But it really is a true program. So they meet every other week at the minimum to do case management. Because everybody needs something different. We've got folks who just kind of fell on hard times. They had never been homeless before. And so they need assistance with different goals versus we've got folks who haven't been in housing in forever. Or our case manager recently taught somebody how to fold their clothes. So just kind of the gambit of how, best practices of how to do the dishes, or kind of the sweet spot of what to set your temperature at, right. Or all of those little kind of skills to prepare folks to live as best as they can once they get into permanent housing.
What do you charge your clients to stay in your transitional housing?
Yeah. So it is $400 a month. That's rent, utilities, Wi-Fi, and toiletries. And we have it set to where what we pay for our rent and then a little bit for the case management, but it's like as set as low as we can, because it's not like we don't make money off these houses at all. But that's not the point of these programs. We wish we could not charge rent, but we have it as low as we can so then they can save money in the meantime. So then while we are able to, us sometimes, or us and our partnerships are able to help pay for like that security deposit or the application fees or stuff like that, we try and have it as low as possible so they can also save. So they have money once they've gotten into housing. Right. So they're not starting at zero.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's great. I love it. Thanks. Next question. Are you ready?
Yeah.
It's an easy one. So for people who are wanting to help, how do they find Murfreesboro Cold Patrol?
Yeah, so we're on Facebook and Instagram. I will tell you Facebook is the best for our social media. And so, or we've got an email. All of us have emails, or the Cold Patrol number goes directly to my phone. And so you could text. I say text, please, because usually it's easier if I'm in a meeting, I can text you back really quickly. But they can reach out on any of those platforms. And as far as volunteers go, we accept everybody. We kind of joke, if you've got a passion, I can put you somewhere. So a lot of folks think it's just going to camps with us. Not all of our volunteers are comfortable with that, and that's okay. Or like not all of them can physically go to a camp, and that is okay. We've got sorting and organizing opportunities. We've got folks who they can't commit as much time, but like they have a truck, and once someone does get into housing, because that's a huge thing of the furniture, getting it to our folks, and so they help with move-ins. We've got folks who we're trying to get kickstarted our home team, which is folks who just call and check in on our folks who've gotten into housing. Loneliness is actually one of the major reasons folks aren't successful in housing. And so even if it's just sitting on a phone call or picking up someone and we've got gift cards, taking them to lunch or something like that once they're in housing, to kind of make sure they know that they're supported and loved and a part of the community. We've got cleaning opportunities. I mean, literally, if you love to knit stuff, we can, have you knit a mat. Like, literally, if you have a passion, we can put you somewhere.
Awesome. Does Murfreesboro Cold Patrol have a website?
Yes.
What is it?
It is murfreesborocoldpatrol.com.
Okay.
And so we've got information on there of how to reach out and contact us. We've got it all over our social media. We would love to have anybody who is interested. And so it's kind of whatever your comfortability level is. I will say, -2 who have there are Cold Patrol babies and have grown up with Cold Patrol. We don't take anyone who's a kid into a camp. So that would be the only spot where we could not take someone, but we've got plenty of other opportunities in creating care packages or something. We've got other opportunities.
And where do all the items come from that you give to your families? Your home kits and your rehab suitcases and where does that product come from, and how can people donate to that?
Yes. So we are so gracious and so supported by the community of, like, if we post that we've got a need, especially on our social media, the community comes through for us. And so we do have a few grants and several a couple like independent donors, but private donors like you and me are kind of who, and it doesn't have to be, if you've got millions of dollars, come holler at us, but it doesn't have to be that. We are really supported by like the moms and pops and grandmas who are donating $25 a month. Yeah. Like, that's huge. And so we try to be really good stewards of that, so we purchase, if it's like the rehab kits, we purchase that. But if we ever ask for like private donations, we'll put it all over our social media and stuff, and the community usually really comes through for us. We're very fortunate.
Yeah, it's a great community to live
Yeah,
in. We have
absolutely.
a lot of support out there.
Oh, for sure. I mean, Snow Week, I made a Facebook Live, and I mean, it was huge, the response. Fun fact, if you get enough Amazon donations, they'll drop it off in huge carrier boxes. And I had no idea. But like, what an amazing problem to come up, right? And so like the community really supports us, and our social media is kind of a really big driver of that.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else you need to tell us about Murfreesboro Cold Patrol?
I don't think so. Just kind of the biggest thing that I always try and leave everybody with is like, our folks are incredible. And if you are interested in working with our folks or learning more about us or whatever, one of my favorite things to do is go talk to different groups and clubs and Rotary and Lions Club and all that stuff. Because the best way that we can dispel kind of some of the myths that are out there about our clients is reach out, you know? Yeah, absolutely. Come sit down with our clients. You will fall in love with them just like all of the rest of us do. And so we have those opportunities.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Jordan, thank you so much for coming today and talking with us.
Thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Well, good. I hope it wasn't horrible.
No, not horrible at all. This was so much fun.
Good.
Yeah.
And as always, I want to thank our producer, Trent Denson, with Spread the Positive, bringing light to what's going right. Yeah. I hope y'all have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah.